The small metal pod spun slowly in the dark space, its hull scarred and blackened. Sparks flew from broken wires inside as the life support systems fought to keep working. Inside the pod, Lieutenant Sarah Chen lay unconscious, her breathing shallow and weak. Dr. Zephahai pressed his webbed hands against the viewing window of the Kethrin ship. His large dark eyes studied the human craft with curiosity. The Kethrins had never seen anything like it before. "Should we bring it aboard?" asked Captain Nelthis, her voice soft like all Kethrins. Their species spoke in gentle tones even during emergencies. "Yes," Zephahai said. "There is life inside. Weak but alive." The Kethrin research ship Harmonious Discovery was small and peaceful. Its crew of 12 scientists explored the galaxy, studying stars and planets. They had no weapons, no shields, only instruments for learning. The ship's hull was smooth and white, shaped like a great fish swimming through space. They pulled the human pod into their cargo bay. When Zephahai opened it, he gasped. The creature inside looked nothing like any being he had seen. 2 arms, 2 legs, strange hair on its head. The skin was pale and dry, not moist like Kethrin skin. Most strange of all, the creature had only 2 eyes instead of the 4 that most intelligent species possessed. "Fascinating," Zephahai whispered. He carefully lifted Sarah onto a medical table. Her body was broken in many places. Burns covered her arms. Blood leaked from cuts on her head. By Kethrin understanding of biology, this creature should have been dead, but Sarah was breathing. Her heart beat steadily. Somehow her body was already starting to heal itself. Zephahai worked for hours. He did not understand human medicine, but he tried his best. He cleaned her wounds and gave her fluids. He watched in amazement as her cuts began to close by themselves. Her bones started to mend without any help. "What kind of species heals this fast?" he asked his assistant, Morden. "I do not know," Morden replied. "Perhaps they come from a very dangerous world." 3 days later, Sarah opened her eyes. She saw strange faces looking down at her. The creatures had smooth gray-green skin that looked wet. Their eyes were large and black. Gills fluttered on their necks as they breathed. Sarah tried to speak, but only a croak came out. One of the creatures quickly brought her water. The liquid was clean and cool. She drank deeply. "Thank you," she said in a rough voice. The creatures looked at each other with surprise. Zephahai stepped forward and spoke in broken English. His species was good at learning languages. "You are safe," he said slowly. "We found you. We help you." Sarah tried to sit up. Pain shot through her body, but she managed it. "My ship," she said. "What happened to my ship?" Zephahai's expression grew sad. "We found only you, no ship. Only your small craft." The memory came flooding back. The Endeavor had been exploring a new star system when the attack came. Gray ships had appeared from nowhere, firing weapons that tore through the human vessel's hull. Sarah had barely made it to an escape pod before the ship exploded. "The Vrakti," she whispered. "They destroyed everything." "Vrakti?" Zephahai asked. "You know this name?" Sarah nodded. Over the next few days, as she recovered, she told the Kethrins about the attack. She described the Vrakti Empire and their brutal expansion across the galaxy. The Kethrins listened with growing fear. "They have taken our homeworld," Captain Nelthis said quietly. 2 years ago. "Our people fight, but we are not warriors. We are scientists, healers, teachers. The Vrakti use our people as slaves in the deep water mines." Sarah felt sick, but not from her injuries. "How many of your people are left?" "Perhaps 50,000 on different worlds," Zephahai said. "Maybe fewer now. The Vrakti hunt us. They say peaceful species are weak. They kill or enslave us all." "You need to get to human space," Sarah said. "We can protect you." The Kethrins looked at each other sadly. "Humans are like us, yes?" Nelthis asked. "Small, scattered few ships. The Vrakti will destroy you too." Sarah almost laughed but stopped herself. These gentle people had saved her life. They had no idea what humans were really like. "How many Kethrins lived on your homeworld?" she asked. 10 million, Zephahai said. "It was a beautiful world, all blue oceans and floating cities." "Humans have 300 worlds," Sarah said. "Our smallest colony has 50 million people. Our homeworld has 12 billion. The Kethrins stared at her. They thought she was making up stories. "I know it sounds impossible," Sarah continued, "but my people, we come from a hard world. A world where everything tried to kill us for millions of years. We learned to fight, to build, to survive anything. And when we went to space, we brought those skills with us." Morden shook his head. "But you are small like us. How can small people build so much?" Sarah smiled. Size isn't everything. Humans are good at working together. Very good. When something threatens one of us, all of us respond. She spent weeks with the Kethrins as she finished healing. She learned about their culture, their love of knowledge and peace. They were everything humans claim to want to be. Kind, wise, gentle. They had saved her not because they needed something, but because it was right. The Kethrins were amazed by how fast Sarah healed. Injuries that should have taken months to fix were better in weeks. They had never seen anything like human recovery speed. Your people must be very hard to kill, HFY observed. We are, Sarah agreed. But more importantly, we're very good at killing things that threaten us. As her strength returned, Sarah worked with the ship's communications officer to send a message toward human space. It would take months to reach the nearest outpost, but she had to try. The message was simple. This is Lieutenant Sarah Chen of the UES Endeavour. I'm alive and requesting immediate pickup. I have first contact refugees who need protection. The Vrakti Empire is expanding toward human space. Respond on emergency frequency 7. One day, as Sarah watched the stars from the observation deck, HFY joined her. You really believe your people will come? He asked. I know they will, Sarah said. Humans have a saying, no one left behind. It means we never abandon our own. And since you saved me, you're part of our family now. HFY was quiet for a long moment. The Vrakti have ships and weapons we cannot fight. They are strong. Sarah looked at him with eyes that suddenly seemed much older and harder than her years. Doctor, let me tell you something about humans. We spent thousands of years as prey animals on our world. Everything was bigger, stronger, had more teeth or claws than us. But we survived. We learned, and eventually we became the thing that other predators feared. She pointed out at the stars. The Vrakti think peaceful means weak. They're about to learn the difference between choosing peace and being capable of war. Humans choose peace. But when someone hurts our friends... Sarah smiled, and for the first time, HFY saw something that made him both hopeful and slightly afraid. When someone hurts our friends, we remember why other species used to fear the dark. 3 months later, the harmonious discovery dropped out of faster-than-light travel near Kepler Station. The Kethrins stared at their screens in disbelief. This cannot be right, Captain Nelthus whispered. The readings show thousands of ships. Sarah smiled from her position at the communications console. That's just the defense fleet. Wait until you see the actual station. Kepler Station hung in space like a small moon made of metal and lights. Ships moved around it like insects around a bright flower. Some were as large as Kethrin cities. The station itself could hold millions of people. Sarah, HFY said in a shaky voice. How many humans live here? About 2 million, Sarah replied. It's just a border outpost. Not even a big one. The Kethrin crew exchanged looks of shock. Their entire surviving race numbered only 50,000 people. A human voice came over the communication system. Kethrin vessel, this is Admiral Torres aboard the UNS Retribution. We're here to escort Lieutenant Chen home. Please follow our lead ship to Docking Bay 7. Sarah felt tears in her eyes as she saw the massive human dreadnought appear on screen. The Retribution was 2 kilometers long, bristling with weapons and armor. Its hull was dark gray, designed to look as intimidating as possible. That's a warship, Nelthus said with fear in her voice. The biggest class we build, Sarah confirmed. Admiral Torres is here personally. That means they're taking this seriously. As they docked, Sarah noticed hundreds of humans waiting for them. Scientists, doctors, diplomats, and military officers filled the bay. She had expected a simple debriefing. Instead, it looked like a formal first contact ceremony. Admiral Torres was a stern woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She hugged Sarah tightly when they met. Good to have you back, Lieutenant, she said. We thought we'd lost you. The Kethrins saved my life, Sarah replied. Admiral, I need to tell you about the Vrakti Empire. Later, Torres said. First, let's take care of our guests. The Kethrins were amazed by human hospitality. They were given comfortable quarters with water pools for sleeping. Human doctors studied their biology to make sure they were healthy. Diplomats worked with translators to improve communication, but it was the food that surprised them most. Humans had prepared dozens of different sea creatures and water plants, trying to match Kethrin dietary needs. No one had ever shown such care for their comfort before. Dr. HFY met with human medical teams. They wanted to learn everything about Kethrin healing techniques. In return, they showed him human medical technology. You can replace entire organs? He asked in amazement. We can grow new ones, Dr. Martinez explained. Humans are very good at fixing damage. We've had a lot of practice. Practice from what? Dr. Martinez smiled sadly. War mostly. We've fought each other for thousands of years. We learned to heal because we were so good at hurting. That evening, Sarah met with Admiral Torres and the station's senior staff. She told them everything about the Kethrans and the Vrakti Empire. They're systematically destroying peaceful species, she explained. The Vrakti see kindness as weakness. They enslave or kill anyone who won't fight back. Colonel Harrison, the station's intelligence chief, studied the data Sarah had gathered. These expansion patterns suggest they'll reach human space within 5 years. Maybe sooner, Sarah said. They're accelerating their conquest rate. And Admiral, the Kethrans are almost extinct. Maybe 50,000 left in the entire galaxy. Admiral Torres was quiet for a long moment. Tell me about them. The Kethrans, Sarah's voice grew warm. They found me dying in space and saved my life. They didn't ask for anything in return. They just did it because it was right. They're scientists and healers, Admiral. They've never hurt anyone. And the Vrakti are hunting them to extinction for sport. What do they know about human capabilities? Asked Captain Webb, Torres's tactical officer. Nothing, Sarah replied. They think we're like them, small, scattered, peaceful. They can't imagine what we're really like. Admiral Torres stood and walked to the viewport. Outside, human ships moved through space in perfect formations. Each one carried enough firepower to destroy a small moon. The Kethrans saved one of ours, she said finally. That makes them family. Admiral? Sarah asked. Torres turned back to the group. Colonel Harrison, I want a full intelligence assessment of the Vrakti Empire. Capabilities, ship counts, strategic weaknesses. Captain Webb, begin planning rescue operations for Kethran civilians. Dr. Martinez, work with their medical officer to understand their needs. And the Kethrans themselves? Sarah asked. We're going to ask them to help us plan the liberation of their people, Torres said. But first they need to understand what they've gotten themselves into by saving you. The next day, Admiral Torres took Dr. HFY on a tour of Kepler Station. She showed him the manufacturing bays where ships were built, the training facilities where soldiers prepared for combat, the command centers where fleet movements were coordinated. How many ships does humanity have? HFY asked. Active fleet? About 12,000 major vessels, Torres replied. We can build more quickly if needed. HFY's legs nearly gave out. 12,000? The Vrakti Empire has perhaps 3,000 ships total. We know, Torres said. We've been watching them. Watching them. For how long? 6 months. Since we detected their expansion pattern heading toward our space. Torres stopped walking and looked directly at the Kethran doctor. Dr. HFY, humans don't like bullies. We never have. That evening, the Kethrans held a meeting in their quarters. They spoke in their own language, rapid and worried. Sarah was invited to join them. She sat by their water pool as they discussed their situation. They want to fight the Vrakti Empire, Neltis said. To save our people. Yes, Sarah replied. Humans don't abandon friends. But it would mean war, HFY said. Many will die. Many are already dying, Sarah pointed out. Your people are being worked to death in Vrakti mines. At least this way they have a chance. Mordun, the youngest Kethran, spoke up. Why do humans care about us? You barely know us, Sarah thought carefully before answering. On Earth, our homeworld, there's an old saying. The measure of a civilization is how it treats those who can do nothing for it. You saved my life when I could give you nothing in return. That tells us everything we need to know about your character. But war, Nelthis began. Dr. HFY, Sarah said. What happens if humans do nothing? The Kethran physician was quiet for a long moment. Our species dies. The Vrakti hunt down the last of us within a few years. And what happens if we fight? Either we all die in the war or some of us live free. Sarah nodded. Then the choice is between certain death and possible life. Humans always choose to fight for life. Captain Nelthis made a decision that would change galactic history. We will help you. We will give you everything we know about Vrakti positions, ship movements, and weaknesses. If you are willing to risk human lives for us, we will risk ours for freedom. Sarah smiled. Captain, you're about to see something that most species never believe until they witness it themselves. What is that? What happens when humans decide that someone needs to be stopped? Admiral Torres received the Kethran intelligence data that night. As she reviewed the files, her expression grew darker. The Vrakti weren't just conquering, they were committing genocide. Entire species had been wiped out for refusing to submit. She opened a communication channel to Earth Command. This is Admiral Torres at Kepler Station. I need authorization for Operation Tsunami. Full fleet deployment against the Vrakti Empire. The response came back within hours. Authorization granted. Protect our allies. Show them what human friendship means. Sarah stood with Dr. Zephai in the observation deck as human ships began arriving. Dozens, then hundreds of vessels appeared in the system. Each one was larger and more heavily armed than anything the Kethrans had imagined possible. "This is not your entire fleet?" Zephai asked. "About a tenth of it," Sarah replied. "The rest are heading to other positions." Zephai watched the impossible sight of a human war fleet assembling. "Lieutenant Chen, what have we done?" Sarah put a gentle hand on his shoulder. "You saved a human life, Doctor. Now you're about to see what that means." Captain Marcus Webb's stealth ship Shadowrunner moved silently through Vrakti space. The human vessel was painted black and covered with technology that bent light around its hull. To Vrakti sensors, it was invisible. Inside the ship, Webb studied intelligence reports with Dr. Zephai and Sarah. The information painted a horrible picture of the Vrakti Empire. 47 labor camps on Kethran homeworld alone. Webb said grimly, "Your people are forced to mine rare metals from the ocean floor. Most die within 2 years." Zephai's hands shook as he looked at images of his people in chains. The Kethrans worked in underwater facilities, their natural swimming ability exploited by their captors. They were thin and weak, clearly not getting enough food. "The Vrakti keep them barely alive," Sarah observed. "Just healthy enough to work, too weak to resist." "How many ships guard the planet?" Webb asked. 12 patrol vessels, Zephai replied. The Vrakti never expected resistance. "No species has ever fought back before?" Webb smiled coldly. "They're about to get an education." The Shadowrunner was one of 50 stealth ships moving through Vrakti territory. Each carried a team of human special forces and Kethran guides. Their mission was simple: gather intelligence and prepare for the main assault. What they found was worse than anyone had imagined. Lieutenant Rodriguez transmitted from the Quilax system. "Admiral, you need to see this. The Vrakti have enslaved an entire species of musicians. They're forcing them to work in silence. They've cut out their vocal cords." From the Thornix sector came another report. "The Vrakti have stripped 3 planets bare. They're using the local tree people as living construction equipment. Most of them are barely conscious from exhaustion." Commander Singh reported from deep Vrakti space. "I'm seeing evidence of at least 12 extinct species. The Vrakti keep museums of their conquests. They display the bones of entire civilizations." Admiral Torres received each report aboard her flagship. With every message, her expression grew harder. She had seen war before, but this was different. This was systematic extermination. "How many species are currently enslaved?" she asked Colonel Harrison. "At least 30, Harrison replied. "Maybe more. The Vrakti have been expanding for over 200 years. Torres made a decision that would echo across the galaxy. Change of plans. "We're not just rescuing the Kethrans. We're liberating everyone." The first rescue mission began at dawn on Kethran homeworld. The Shadowrunner and 5 other stealth ships approached the largest mining complex. 200 Kethrans were imprisoned there, working in underwater facilities that should have been impossible for air-breathing captors to guard. But the Vrakti had found a solution. They used automated systems and robots to monitor the Kethrans. Only a dozen Vrakti guards were actually present, and they stayed in a floating command station above the water. "Remember," Webb told his team, "we want prisoners for intelligence." "But if they resist—" "Understood, sir," Sergeant Kim replied. "We've seen what they do to civilians." The human assault was swift and brutal. Stealth suits allowed the soldiers to swim undetected to the Vrakti station. The guards never knew what hit them. Sarah dove into the underwater facility with breathing equipment. The sight that greeted her made her sick with rage. Kethrans worked in chains, their natural grace reduced to mechanical movements. Many bore scars from electric prods used to keep them moving. "It's okay," she called out in the Kethran language. "We're here to help. The humans have come." One old Kethran looked at her with eyes that had given up hope long ago. "Humans? But you are so few, so far away." Sarah smiled and activated her communicator. "Captain Webb, please show our friends what human few looks like." On the surface, 6 human destroyers decloaked simultaneously. Each ship was larger than the entire Vrakti patrol fleet. The prisoners watched through underwater windows as their captors' vessels were destroyed in seconds. "How?" the old Kethran whispered. "We brought friends," Sarah replied. Within hours, 200 Kethrans were free and aboard human medical ships. The rescue teams worked quickly, knowing that Vrakti reinforcements would arrive soon. But Webb had another surprise planned. As the humans prepared to leave, he activated a device that sent a signal across Vrakti communication networks. Every screen in the Empire suddenly showed the same message. It was Admiral Torres, speaking directly to the Vrakti leadership. Behind her stood Dr. Zephi and representatives of every species humanity had contacted. "I am Admiral Torres of the Human Colonial Defense Force," she said calmly. "We have liberated our first camp. This is not a negotiation. This is a warning. You have enslaved peaceful species for centuries. You have committed genocide against those who could not defend themselves. You have made a mistake that will cost you everything. Humanity does not negotiate with slavers. We do not make deals with murderers. We simply stop them. Every camp will be liberated. Every slave will be freed. Every one of your victims will see justice. And if you resist, you will discover why peaceful species call us when the monsters come." The transmission ended. Across Vrakti space, alarms began to sound. Warlord Kestak, supreme leader of the Vrakti Empire, watched the human message from his throne ship. He was a massive creature covered in scales and sporting forearms ending in claws. His species had conquered through brute force and intimidation for centuries. "What do we know of these humans?" he demanded. His intelligence chief, General Vextar, consulted his reports. "They appear to be a small species like the others we have conquered. Perhaps 50 worlds. No major military presence detected in our previous surveys. Then why are they confident enough to threaten us?" "Unknown, my lord." "They may be bluffing," Kestak growled. "Send the Fifth Fleet to their border. Destroy a few of their colonies. Show them what happens when insects challenge predators." The Vrakti Fifth Fleet consisted of 300 warships. It was enough to conquer most small civilizations. The fleet commander, Admiral Grokhan, was confident as his ships approached human space. "Prepare to broadcast surrender demands," he ordered. "After we destroy their first planet, the humans will beg for mercy." The Vrakti fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the human colony of New Manila. Grokhan expected to find a lightly defended farming world with perhaps a few patrol ships. Instead, he found himself facing the human Third Fleet. 800 human warships hung in space in perfect formation. Each vessel was larger and more heavily armed than anything in the Vrakti fleet. At their head was the UNS Vengeance, a dreadnought that outweighed the entire Vrakti force. Admiral Chen, Sarah's older sister, opened a communication channel to the Vrakti fleet. "This is Admiral Chen of the Human Defense Force. You are trespassing in human space. Surrender immediately or be destroyed." Grokhan stared at his screens in disbelief. "This is impossible. Our intelligence said they were weak, sir," his communications officer said nervously. "They're transmitting our exact position to the rest of their fleet. They know where every one of our ships is located." "How?" "Unknown, sir. But their targeting systems have locked onto every vessel in our fleet simultaneously." Admiral Chen's voice came over the speakers again. "You have 10 seconds to surrender. We will accept nothing less than the immediate release of all slaves in your territory." Grokhan made the last mistake of his career. "Fire all weapons. Show these animals what Vrakti power means." The battle lasted exactly 4 minutes and 37 seconds. Human weapons reached across space with surgical precision. Vrakti ships exploded one by one as their weapon systems were disabled, their engines destroyed, their life support cut. The few vessels that tried to flee were captured by human ships that moved faster than anything the Vrakti had imagined possible. When the shooting stopped, only 12 Vrakti ships remained intact. The rest were debris floating in space. Admiral Chen transmitted the battle footage directly to Vrakti High Command. She wanted them to see exactly what had happened to their invincible fleet. "This was your strongest battle group," she said calmly. "We destroyed it without losing a single ship. Imagine what we'll do to the rest of your forces." On his throne ship, Warlord Kestak watched the destruction of his fleet in stunned silence. 300 ships destroyed by creatures his intelligence had dismissed as harmless. "Get me everything we have on humans," he snarled. "I want to know what we're really facing." But it was too late for intelligence gathering. Across the galaxy, human ships were already moving. Stealth vessels infiltrated Vrakti space while battle fleets took position at strategic points. Within days, the liberation of every slave camp would begin. Dr. Zephi stood in the observation deck of Admiral Torres's flagship, watching human ships prepare for war. Sarah joined him as they approached the next target. "Are you ready for this?" she asked. HFY looked at his webbed hands, then at the human war fleet stretching to the horizon. "My people saved one human. Now thousands of humans risk their lives for us." "That's what friendship means to us," Sarah replied. "When someone shows us kindness, we remember it forever." The doctor watched as human fighters launched from carrier ships, their engines burning bright in the darkness. "What will happen to the Vrakti?" Sarah's expression was cold as space itself. "They're about to learn why apex predators choose to be peaceful." Operation Tsunami began at exactly 0600 Galactic Standard Time, across 47 star systems simultaneously. Human fleets that had been moving in secret for weeks suddenly appeared at every major Vrakti installation. Admiral Torres coordinated the massive assault from her flagship. Around her, dozens of officers managed the liberation of an entire galactic sector. Each target had been carefully planned using intelligence from rescued slaves. "Thornix system reporting successful liberation," came the first message. 2,000 tree people freed from mining operations. "Minimal resistance. Quilax prime secured," reported another admiral. "The music makers are free. Medical teams are working to restore their vocal capabilities." But it was the report from Catherine Homeworld that mattered most to Torres. "Admiral," Captain Webb transmitted, "you need to see this." The main screen showed underwater footage from the planet's mining facilities. Thousands of Kethrans swam freely through their ancient cities for the first time in years. Human divers worked alongside them, cutting away chains and destroying the automated systems that had kept them prisoner. Dr. HFY watched with tears in his large eyes as his people touched their sacred coral gardens again. Children who had been born in captivity saw the beauty of their homeworld for the first time. "How many?" he asked. 43,000 on the homeworld alone," Torres replied. "We found another 15,000 spread across other systems." Sarah put her hand on the Kethran doctor's shoulder. "Your species will survive." But the liberation was only beginning. As human forces freed more camps, they discovered the true scope of Vrakti cruelty. The Mantics, an insect-like species, had been forced to build ships for their captors until their limbs broke from overwork. The Serenians, peaceful plant people, were used as living food sources, their fruits harvested until they died. Each discovery made the human forces more determined and more angry. "Admiral Torres," Colonel Harrison reported, "we found evidence of 38 extinct species. The Vrakti have been systematically destroying civilizations for over 3 centuries. Torres studied the data. Entire species reduced to museum displays in Vrakti palaces. Billions of intelligent beings murdered simply because they wouldn't fight back. "Any sign of survivors from the extinct species?" she asked. "No, ma'am." The Vrakti were very thorough. Torres made a decision that would define humanity's reputation for centuries. "Then we make sure this never happens again. Full military pursuit of all Vrakti forces. No sanctuary, no negotiation, no mercy for war criminals." The Vrakti Empire, which had seemed unstoppable for centuries, began to collapse. Their fleets were designed to intimidate peaceful species, not fight a military power that could match their aggression with superior technology and tactics. Warlord Kesthak watched his empire crumble from his throne ship. Report after report brought news of defeat. Human forces moved faster than Vrakti communications, striking multiple targets before reinforcements could arrive. "How is this possible?" he roared at his generals. "They are just one species." "We have conquered hundreds." General Vextar consulted his intelligence reports with shaking hands. "My lord, our analysts have been studying human tactics. They do not fight like other species." "Explain." "Most civilizations fight defensively, trying to protect their worlds. Humans fight offensively. They attack our bases, our supply lines, our command centers. They study our weaknesses and exploit them." "They are predators," admitted Admiral Grakhan, who had survived the battle at New Manila only by surrendering immediately. "I have seen their ships in action. They move like hunting packs, working together with perfect coordination." Kesthak studied reports of human rescue operations. "They risk their lives for alien slaves." "Why?" "Unknown, my lord. Our psychological profiles of most species show that they prioritize their own survival. Humans seem to prioritize justice." The warlord laughed bitterly. "Justice? A concept for the weak?" "Perhaps," Vextar said quietly. "That is why they are defeating us." The final confrontation came at the Battle of Kepler's Passage, a strategic star system that controlled access to the Vrakti core worlds. Kesthak had gathered the last of his forces, over 800 ships, including his massive throne vessel. Admiral Torres met him there with the human combined fleet. 2,000 ships filled space, representing not just humanity but all the species they had liberated. Kithrin science vessels worked alongside human destroyers. Thornix agricultural ships carried supplies for the fleet. Even the restored Quilax contributed their mathematical songs to improve tactical coordination. The battle was broadcast across the galaxy. Enslaved populations on remaining Vrakti worlds watched on hidden screens as their liberators faced the Empire's final stand. Kesthak opened communications to the human fleet. The massive reptilian appeared on every screen, his forearms spread wide in a gesture of dominance. "I am Warlord Kesthak, Supreme Commander of the Vrakti Empire," he announced. "You have interfered with the natural order of the galaxy. The strong rule the weak. This is the way of all evolution." Admiral Torres appeared on Vrakti screens in response. She stood calmly on her bridge with Dr. Zephi and representatives of freed species visible behind her. "I am Admiral Torres of the Human Colonial Defense Force," she replied. "You enslaved peaceful beings who showed you no threat. You committed genocide against species that could not defend themselves. You have violated every principle of civilized behavior." "Civilization is a luxury of the powerful," Kesethak sneered. "You humans may be strong, but you are few. My empire spans thousands of worlds." "Your empire," Torres said quietly, "ended the moment you enslaved the first innocent being. You just didn't know it yet." Kesethak gestured to his fleet. 800 warships stand with me. How many do you have, human?" Torres smiled. "Enough." The battle began with Vrakti ships charging forward in a massive wave, trying to overwhelm human defenses through sheer numbers. It was the same tactic that had worked against peaceful species for centuries. But humans were not peaceful species. They were predators who had chosen cooperation over conquest. And when forced to fight, they fought like the apex hunters they had always been. Human ships moved in perfect coordination, like wolves surrounding prey. Vrakti vessels found themselves isolated and outnumbered as human tactics split their formation. Advanced targeting systems allowed human weapons to strike with surgical precision, disabling enemy ships without destroying them. The humans wanted prisoners to testify about Vrakti war crimes. Dr. Zephi watched from the bridge as human fighters danced between enemy vessels. "They move like they are of one mind," he observed. "Human military doctrine emphasizes unit cohesion," Sarah explained. "Each ship knows exactly what every other ship is doing. It comes from millions of years of pack hunting." The battle turned when human boarding parties began capturing Vrakti command vessels. Instead of simply destroying enemy ships, human marines stormed aboard and seized control. Within hours, half the Vrakti fleet was flying under human command. Kesethak watched his empire die around him. His throne ship, the mighty Domination, found itself surrounded by captured Vrakti vessels now flying human flags. "Impossible," he whispered. "No species has ever resisted us this successfully." Admiral Torres's voice came over his communication system. "Warlord, you have enslaved your last innocent being. Surrender now and face trial for your crimes or be destroyed with your ship." The massive reptilian looked around his bridge at his cowering crew. For 3 centuries, the Vrakti had been the monsters that peaceful species feared. Now they faced something more frightening than themselves. "You cannot destroy us all," Kesethak said desperately. "My people spread across the galaxy. Some will survive." "Yes," Torres agreed. "The ones who surrender and accept justice will live. The ones who continue your crimes will not." Kesethak made one final gesture of defiance. He activated his ship's self-destruct sequence, choosing to die rather than face trial. The Domination exploded in a flash of light that could be seen across the star system. With its destruction, the Vrakti Empire officially ended. Across the galaxy, news of the battle spread instantly. On every enslaved world, populations that had suffered under Vrakti rule for generations watched as their oppressors surrendered or fled. Within weeks, human ships arrived at every remaining Vrakti outpost. Some garrisons surrendered immediately. Others fought and were quickly defeated. A few tried to flee to unexplored space but found human ships waiting for them there too. The liberation was complete. Dr. Zephi stood in Admiral Torres's ready room as reports came in from across former Vrakti space. Everywhere, freed slaves were returning to their homeworlds or choosing to start new lives elsewhere. 43 species liberated, Torres reported. Over 2 billion sentient beings freed from slavery, and the Vrakti leadership either dead or awaiting trial for war crimes. What will happen to the regular Vrakti soldiers? HFY asked. Those who surrender and renounce their empire's methods will be allowed to live, Torres replied. They'll be monitored, but they can rebuild their civilization along peaceful lines. Sarah joined them, having just returned from coordinating refugee operations. The freed species want to meet with you, Admiral. They're talking about forming some kind of alliance. 6 months after the fall of the Vrakti Empire, Sarah stood on the balcony of the restored Kethran Capitol building. Below her, the floating city of Thalneath gleamed in the light of its blue sun. Kethrans swam freely through the crystal-clear waters between buildings, their graceful movements a celebration of freedom. The city had been rebuilt with help from human engineers and workers from dozens of liberated species. Thornyx had grown new coral structures. Quilax mathematicians had designed perfect acoustic chambers for government meetings. Even former Vrakti citizens, those who had renounced their empire's ways, worked alongside their former slaves to create something beautiful. Dr. HFY joined Sarah on the balcony. He wore new robes marking his position as Kethran representative to the forming Galactic Alliance. Nervous about today? Sarah asked. Terrified, HFY admitted. We are about to change the galaxy forever. Inside the building, representatives from 43 species gathered for the signing of the Galactic Covenant of Free Worlds. The document had taken months to negotiate, with each species contributing their ideas about justice, freedom, and mutual protection. Admiral Torres, now promoted to Fleet Admiral and designated as humanity's representative, reviewed the final treaty documents. The covenant was unprecedented in galactic history, a voluntary alliance based on shared values rather than conquest or economic need. Article 1, she read aloud. All member species have the right to self-determination and peaceful development. Article 2. No member species may enslave, conquer, or systematically oppress any other sentient beings. Article 3. When any species faces extinction or enslavement, all Covenant members will respond with whatever aid is necessary. The signing ceremony was broadcast across the galaxy. Sarah watched as each representative added their species' approval to the document. The Kethrans signed with bioluminescent ink that glowed in their language. The Thornyx pressed leaves that contained their genetic signature. The Quilax sang mathematical equations that served as their binding oath. When it came humanity's turn, Admiral Torres used a simple pen made from earth metal, but her words carried the weight of human military might behind them. Humanity pledges its full support to this covenant, she said. We promise that no peaceful species will face extinction alone. Never again. The celebration that followed lasted 3 days. Each species shared their culture, their food, their art. Humans learned Kethran healing techniques. The Thornyx taught humans how to grow food more efficiently. The Quilax shared their mathematical music, which human computers could barely understand. But it was the gifts that touched Sarah most deeply. The Kethrans offered their medical knowledge, advanced beyond anything humans had imagined. Our bodies heal naturally, Dr. HFY explained. But our minds understand healing itself. We can teach you to cure diseases you thought were impossible. The Thornyx presented seeds from their homeworld. These trees will grow anywhere, their representative Grove Singer Thalneath said. They clean air, provide food, and sing in the wind. A gift of life from our people to yours. The Quilax gave humanity their mathematics of harmony. Your computers are powerful, said Equation Weaver Senth, but they think in straight lines. Our mathematics thinks in music. Together we can solve problems neither of us could face alone. Even former Vrakti citizens brought gifts. Those who had turned against their empire offered their knowledge of space travel and engineering. We wish to build instead of destroy, said engineer Korthlen, one of the first Vrakti to defect. Let us earn redemption through service. Admiral Torres accepted each gift with the same response. These are wonderful offerings, but humanity does not need payment. You have already given us the greatest gift possible. What is that? Asked Dr. HFY, the chance to do what is right. As the celebration continued, Sarah found herself in a quiet garden with representatives from several species. They were discussing the future of the Covenant and the challenges ahead. There will be other empires, warned Korthlen. The Vrakti were not the only predators in the galaxy. "Let them come," said Captain Nelthus, who now commanded a mixed Kethran-human exploration vessel. "The Covenant is not defenseless." Sarah smiled as she watched human and alien children playing together in the garden. Kethran youngsters taught human kids to swim in the special pools, while human children showed their new friends how to climb the Thornyx tree structures. This is what we were fighting for, she realized. Not just freedom from oppression, but the chance for different species to learn from each other and grow together. A year later, the Covenant faced its first major test. A distress signal came from the edge of explored space. A species called the Velith was under attack by raiders from unknown space. Their message was brief and desperate. "Unknown civilizations, we are the Velith of the Kepler 442 system. Hostile forces are destroying our colonies. We are a peaceful people with no weapons. If anyone receives this message, please help us." The Covenant Council met within hours. Representatives from every member species gathered in the chamber aboard Harmony Station, the Alliance's mobile capital. "The signal is genuine," reported the Quilax mathematicians. "Analysis of their language patterns shows extreme distress and truth-telling indicators. Long-range sensors detect massive energy signatures in their system," added human intelligence officers. "Something is conducting planetary bombardment." Dr. Zephai, now serving as the Covenant's first speaker, called for a vote. The Velith are not Covenant members, but they are requesting aid against aggression. Article 7 allows for emergency assistance to non-member species facing extinction. The vote was unanimous. Every species agreed to help. Admiral Torres took command of the rescue fleet. It was smaller than the force that had defeated the Vrakti, only 200 ships, but it represented something new in galactic history. Humans, Kethrans, Thornyx, Quilax, reformed Vrakti, and dozens of other species working together as one military force. The fleet arrived at the Velith system to find something that chilled everyone aboard the ships. The raiders weren't trying to conquer or enslave the Velith. They were simply destroying everything. Energy readings suggest they're extracting something from the planetary cores, reported the science team. They're literally mining the planets to death, killing everyone on the surface. Sarah, now promoted to admiral and serving as Torres' second-in-command, studied the raider ships. They were unlike anything in Covenant databases, organic-looking vessels that seemed to grow rather than being built. "First contact protocols," Torres ordered. "Maybe we can negotiate." The attempt at communication failed. The raiders didn't respond to any signals. Instead, they turned their weapons on the Covenant fleet. The battle was brief but intense. The raider ships fought with suicidal determination, ramming Covenant vessels when their weapons failed, but they couldn't match the combined technology and tactics of the Alliance. When the last raider ship was destroyed, the Covenant fleet turned to rescuing Velith survivors. What they found broke their hearts. The Velith were a butterfly-like species with iridescent wings and gentle voices. Their cities had been works of art, built into living trees that grew in perfect spirals toward the sky. Now those cities were ash and less than 10,000 Velith remained alive. Why? Asked Silthera, the Velith queen, as human medics treated her burns. "We never harmed anyone. We never even left our system." "Why did they want to kill us?" Dr. Zephai translated for her, his voice heavy with sorrow. "She asks the question we all ask, Admiral. Why do some species choose to destroy rather than create?" Torres knelt beside the injured queen. "I don't know why, Your Majesty, but I promise you this, it will not happen again. The Covenant exists to prevent exactly this kind of tragedy." The Velith joined the Covenant that same day. Their artistic abilities and biotechnology became valuable additions to the Alliance's capabilities. More importantly, their tragedy served as a reminder of why the Covenant existed. 2 years after its founding, the Covenant had grown to 67 member species. Harmony Station had become a symbol of hope across the galaxy, a place where different kinds of life could work together for the common good. Sarah walked through the station's central park, where trees from dozens of worlds grew side by side. Kethran fish swam in streams that flowed past Thornyx groves. Quilax mathematical sculptures provided perches for Velith who needed to rest their wings. She found Dr. Zephai feeding the fish in one of the ponds. The old Kethran had aged in the past few years, but his eyes still held the kindness that had saved her life so long ago. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked. "Rescuing me, I mean. Look at all the violence that followed. SciFi was quiet for a moment, watching the colorful fish swim in peaceful circles. Do you know what I see when I look at this station, Admiral? What? I see Catherine children who will never know slavery. I see Thornix forest that will never be strip-mined. I see Quillax who can sing their mathematical songs freely. He turned to look at her. I see a galaxy where kindness is protected by strength, Sarah smiled. The human philosophers would say we've created a virtuous cycle. Good deeds leading to good results which inspire more good deeds. Your species has a gift, Zephi observed. You remember kindness, but you also remember injustice.